I'd like to introduce Katherine Macleod. Katherine graduated from the Technical University of Nova Scotia in 1991 and has spent the past 12 years working as an environmental engineer for Nova Scotia Environment. Katherine, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing fine today, and you?
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for being with us today. And it was really great to get you on board through Engineers Nova Scotia, I believe. And we'd like to hear a little bit about your story, and if you can talk about, to begin, just what is it that you do?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me today. It's a great honor to be here. So currently, I'm working as an environmental inspector or environmental engineer for Nova Scotia Environment in the Inspection, Compliance, and Enforcement Division. So as mentioned, I've been here for about 12 years, and it's my job to make sure that the activities under the Environment Act and our regulations are operating within those regulations. So there are certain activities that have a certain amount of environmental risk, and they require approval through our department. So I would be the person that would be processing those approvals. That's primarily what my job is right now. So.
Can you give us an example so it's very clear of what that might be?
Okay, so one of the types of approvals that I would do would be for a water treatment plant. If there's a new building or a new facility that needs to be constructed, if the town decides that they want to have their own water treatment, or if there's upgrades to an existing facility. We do see a lot of facilities out there that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years that want to improve the treatment that they do. Then that's where I would get involved. They would send me an application with typically engineering drawings, descriptions of how they're going to treat the water, how they're going to mitigate any potential risks, and how they are able to meet the regulations that we have for that type of activity. So I would review it, make sure that everything that they require is there, and then produce an approval that the inspectors would use to go and audit the facility.
So, and thank you for that. The environment is such a hot topic globally these days. Have you seen, is there a change since you started in the demand for, I guess, the inspections or the research that you're doing? Or has it changed?
Certain things have changed, like the regulations are always improving. It usually takes a case going to court to determine where the gaps in our regulations are. So once, if we go to court over something and then we realize that the regulation wasn't strong enough, then the regulations will get rewritten. So we have a little more power and get rid of those gaps where they're not as solid as what they need to be. There's certainly, like you said, it is a hot topic. There are some facilities across the province that are big. They have demonstrations, and people are very, passionate about the environment, and sometimes it's difficult. Some people don't think the government is doing enough to regulate, and then the facilities think we're doing too much of a demand on them. So we're kind of in the middle. So we try to keep that balance between what the public expectation is and what is fair and honest to the operations as well.
I can imagine. And did you always think this is what you would do? And even if you can go back before when you went into engineering, where did you see yourself going?
I had no idea where I wanted to go. I'll be totally honest. And when I first started looking at going to university, I didn't really even understand what an engineer did. So I knew that I liked the sciences, that I liked math, and that was something that I enjoyed learning. A lot of people get into engineering because they know someone who is an engineer, and they've got this straightforward career path of where they want to go. But I wasn't that person. I hate to say I fell into it, but I pretty much fell into it. And I haven't looked back and regretted any of it, so it's been great.
That's amazing. From everyone that I've heard that is an engineer, or what I understand about the program, is that it is quite grueling. Were there any challenges, or could you speak about how you made it through that program?
And yeah, there were some particular courses that were challenging. I remember my first year doing calculus. I had never done calculus before, and I think most of the high school programs now have like calculus in their curriculum for people moving forward to university. But at the time that I was there, that wasn't a thing. So I'm in this big room with all these people, some who have done it before and some like myself who hadn't. So I found that to be, a little daunting. But I spent a lot of time like just in front of the books. There were a lot of, Friday and Saturday nights I didn't get to go out because I had to get my calculus
Mm-hmm.
done and
Mm-hmm.
get a good understanding of what it was because I was actually a bit behind when I got to university.
When you
So
started. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it was yeah, it was a challenge. You do give up a bit, but I mean the rewards at the end are just amazing.
Thank you. Can you talk about a typical workday or work week? And in that, are you working from home now?
I am working from home. I've been working from home now since March. My last in-person meeting was on Friday, March the 13th, and I got a text on Sunday afternoon that basically said, go into the office and get what you need and go home until we call you back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the office is opening up a bit now, but I'm doing well working at home. So I just I'm more or less just sticking here. So a typical let's say a typical week for me, like I would get reports coming in from facilities that already have approvals that I would have to review to make sure that they're meeting their requirements. I could randomly get in an application like I talked about previously for a facility, and it could be anything like water treatment, sewer treatment, wineries, cheese shops, contaminated sites, landfills. So it's a whole big, it's the same thing over and over again, but there's so much variety in it that no day is ever the same,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I really enjoy about it. It's you're constantly learning. There's constantly new technologies out there that you need to review. So that's great. Um, so there's the applications, there's the report reviews. Occasionally, I get to go out with the inspectors when they conduct their audits if
Mm-hmm.
they need technical support. Some of the facilities are a little lower tech, but like for water treatment plants or sewage treatment plants, I would typically go with the inspector when they do their audits to make sure that compliance is being done. And then there's about 10% of my week that you pick up the phone and you never know who's going to be on the other end and what they're going to ask for. I
Right.
think one of my most memorable calls was a few years back from a movie company that they wanted to shoot a scene of a plane crashing into a lake and whether or not they needed any approvals from us in order to do that. So it's that variety that really makes this job enjoyable because you
Yeah, no,
just never
that's
know. Yeah.
really interesting. What would be the most challenging part of your job?
Most challenging is probably dealing with some of the public and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we're a science agency, but we're also a political entity.
Mm-hmm.
So like people are very, like I said, very passionate about the environment, and if they aren't happy with something that's going on, like sometimes you have to meet with them and tell them, well, these are the regulations. This is what these other folks are allowed to do. And they may not like it. They may not like the science. It's a bit of a no-win situation when someone is really so passionate about it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's probably the most challenging. It doesn't happen very often, but some of the more high profile cases can get somewhat contentious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I can imagine. And trying to be that middle person in between. And like you mentioned, there's not everyone understands all of the dimensions to every issue that you're exploring. Can you talk a little bit about the pay scale or what the starting salary might be?
The starting salary, well, it's a unionized job, so it has very specific buckets for where the pay scale would
Mm-hmm.
be. Yeah, I'm rated as a PR 18, so professional 18. and it's broken up into 4 different pay scales. So the lower scale is around 80,000, and then the upper scale is around 90.
Okay, thank you. And does your work week look like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5? Can you talk about work-life balance?
Yeah, so it is a 35-hour work week. Typically 8:30 to 4:30 is with an hour lunch is typically what you start at. Our office actually works on a flex schedule. So I start at 8 o'clock, take a half-hour lunch, and then have every other Monday off, which is really nice because every other week you have a long weekend.
Yeah, no,
So
that's great.
yeah, and I mean overtime for this particular role, there isn't a lot of overtime. I would typically, if we were still doing in-person meetings, like I might have a meeting in Halifax that goes until 4, and it takes me an hour to get home. So there'd be a half hour of overtime there, but it's not an expected requirement for the job.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. We're going to wait and see if there's any questions that relay from the students through the teachers, and that sometimes takes a moment. Can you give any advice to the students sitting in, at 14, 16 in the classroom right now about their future?
I would say like stick with the sciences. That's the way to go. It opens up so many opportunities for you. And as an engineer, like the program teaches you how to think, and it's you want to be that's a skill that's like transferable through anything that you do. So if you don't know what you want to do, engineering is a really great stepping stone to do.
Mm-hmm.
To do whatever. I mean, my career has been very, very varied. This is kind of like the last piece in the puzzle. But it allows you, engineering allows you to do a whole lot of different things. And companies like engineers, like I said, because they know how to think.
Mm-hmm. That's great. We do have a question. What are the job opportunities for engineers in Nova Scotia, and what branch of engineering do you go into?
The branch of engineering, it depends on what you like. Honestly, if I went into mechanical because I liked the way that things worked, that's what I graduated from. But because and I'm practicing environmental engineering now, so once you have that initial skill set, you're only allowed to practice where you're competent. But that competence can be something that you learn over time. It's I never designed a sewer system until I had this job, but I learned how to do it, so now I'm qualified to do that. Where coming up with a mechanical engineering degree, I wouldn't necessarily have those particular skills. So yeah, so work, as long as you're doing something that you like, you'll find a job that you like to do. And there are opportunities like within the government for engineering. We do have a science division that works out of Halifax that specializes in specific aspects of the environment. A lot of the municipalities and like towns have engineers on staff, and we work closely with them as far as the regulatory part goes. So there's jobs out there in engineering in all disciplines. Yeah.
That's great. One of the things that keeps coming up through our career days is opportunities for women, and particularly in STEM, sometimes I think women are underrepresented. Can you speak a little bit about your own experience when you were in engineering school as a woman?
Yeah, back then we actually had the most number of women in a mechanical class that ever graduated. So there were 5 of us out of 40. So mechanical is one of those disciplines that doesn't necessarily have a lot of women in it. But I mean, environmental. Back when I was in university, environmental engineering wasn't even a discipline that you could choose. Yeah, they had courses, but it wasn't called environmental engineering. But I find that a lot of women are going into environmental engineering or civil engineering. It seems to be more of the pull. But I mean, we were always in university. Like I never felt that I didn't belong there. Like I felt that the professors and the other students were happy that we were there and making that difference and moving the profession forward. So
Wonderful. Yep, that's great to hear. Catherine, I am just going to see if there's any other questions. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to share to the students today?
Just that, you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're a teenager. I mean, I still don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But make sure you're doing something that you enjoy. And, if you're doing something that you don't like, stop doing it and go do something else. Because, life's short, and you need to enjoy it while you're out there, and you need to do something that you love, because you spend a lot of hours a day doing it.
That is a wonderful piece of advice. Thank you so much. Catherine, it was great to have you here today. Wish you all the best, and stay well.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. Good
Pleasure.
luck.
Thank you.